Thank you for your kind introduction, Mr. Kim In-ben, and Dr. Joo Lee, Chairperson of Education Commission Asia and former Minister of Education and Science of the Republic of Korea. Distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and good afternoon, and depending upon where you are coming from, good evening. Thank you for your participation. It's a great honor for me to speak about the very important agenda on global education, which is one of the most important goals, number 4 goals of Sustainable Development Goals. I'd like to extend a special thanks to tvchosun and the Education Commission Asia for hosting this event and for this invitation at this very difficult, challenging times. I'm honored to speak to you all here today and around the world on a topic that could have been more relevant and timely. That could not have been more relevant and timely. As COVID-19 continues to infiltrate and impact our everyday lives, we realize now more than ever the limitations of traditional bricks and mortar infrastructure. Our long-standing educational institutions have been directly hit, where in just the past several weeks, almost 1 billion children around the world have been out of schools without any education and lectures. Numerous colleges and universities have moved to online classes utilizing platforms such as the ever popular Zoom for at least the remainder of the spring semester. I sincerely hope that this situation will be overcome as soon as possible so that quality education in person will be delivered. Left and right, we are even seeing the cancellation of standardized tests and national exams, leaving students, teachers, and institutions anxious and uncertain about their futures. And the days ahead only seem to be signaling more confusion and chaos. But if there is one thing that the COVID-19 pandemic has reminded us, it is that interruptions in learning are harmful. The effects are most immediately felt by the individuals, but we as a society also collectively suffer in the long run. So how do we ensure learning that can withstand disturbances while simultaneously bringing more students into quality, accessible educational environment? This is a very challenging topic at this time. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that the answer to this question lies in 2 key elements: innovation and partnership. On innovation, first of all, it is no secret that the field of education is often reluctant to change. There is a tendency to hang on to the age-old structures and methods that exude familiarity while remaining skeptical of new approaches to learning. And the pushback is often even greater when this innovation is driven by or even simply infused with technology. But as we have seen so clearly with the recent turn of events and the challenges with the COVID-19, technology is an indispensable resource with immeasurable impacts. For greater than what the current system has shown to be able to provide when harnessed appropriately. So how do we begin to uncover, understand, and utilize the full potential technology-enriched learning experience. I believe that it begins with an understanding that education technology, or what we commonly refer to as edutech, is not simply online learning or even a particular software or program that merges technology with education. Rather, it is about creating an ecosystem that ensures local adaptability of the program at hand, requires as well-functioning infrastructure, develops efficient and competent human capital, and is housed within a visionary, committed, and supportive policy environment. As it is with most things in life, in the absence of such an enabling ecosystem in place, the most promising programs will fail to thrive, let alone survive. I was therefore especially delighted to learn of the Education Commission Asia flagship high-touch, high-tech project in Vietnam that strives to do just this. As the various elements of the ecosystem are evaluated and bolstered where necessary, the program's key mission is brought to life, a mission of reaching more students, impacting more students, especially those left out of the current system for myriad reasons. As elucidated by the name, the initiative targets students' learning through a synergistic relationship between an adaptive, personalized learning technology on the one hand and individually tailored interactive teaching method on the other. The impact are then sustained and further brought to scale through the enabling ecosystem. Ladies and gentlemen, to witness true innovation, we must be prepared for disruption to the traditional concept of education as we know it, and a dismantling of the existing learning structures in place. While this may sound a bit drastic, this simply means that we must proactively explore new ways of learning and create a culture of embracing change that can break down barriers of inflexibility, inaccessibility, inefficiency, and inequality. As we become more open-minded, so too can the doors of education be opened to serve many more students. Let me address about this partnership. Innovation, however, do not emerge in a vacuum, nor do they last in one. Collaboration always precedes any meaningful change. The modernization of partnership is therefore critical in nurturing an ecosystem that fosters and facilitates innovation. And that is exactly why both in Millennium Development Goals and Sustainable Development Goals, global partnership is one of the most important issues. Without partnership, nothing can be done. Nobody, no country, however resourceful or powerful maybe, can do it alone in this challenging situation. Therefore, I cannot overstrength importance of partnership. Because process of innovation is so comprehensive and complex, a multitude of actors naturally come into play, including schools, edutech, companies, and diverse public institutions. Creating innovation, implementing innovation, and ultimately evaluating innovation is a multi-sectoral, cross-industry effort, and one that relies heavily on public-private partnership. The development of relevant cutting-edge content depends on a highly synergistic relationship between the education and technology sectors, while cooperative government, industry, academia collaboration are imperative in ensuring effective implementation and evaluation. I'm now stressing the importance of government, industry, and academia collaboration. That means a partnership. So what then are the key enabling mechanisms in establishing strong partnerships? I believe that partnerships flourish when all actors are united in their understanding of purpose and priority. The leadership role of the government is therefore critical in setting an overarching vision and strategy for innovation that is aligned to the country's larger national education and development priorities. In keeping with this agenda, local actors, including teachers, schools, businesses, NGOs, and universities, can and should take a more proactive role in leading the change appropriately adapted to their specific context. Through such locally driven initiatives, relevant partnerships are forged, genuine collaboration is fostered, and valuable feedbacks of local experience and knowledge is channeled back into the system, reinforcing the overarching vision. Ladies and gentlemen, as it was during my time at the United Nations and as it is for now, I believe that education is not just for a privileged few. It is for everyone. It is a fundamental human right. Yet, in evaluating progress of Sustainable Development Goals number 4, we find that over 265 million children are still currently out of school. Even for those attending, many are deprived of quality educational opportunities, resulting in an inability to meet minimum proficiency standards. During the time of Millennium Development Goals, our target was primary education. Now, with the adoption of Sustainable Development Goals, we are now aiming for higher education beyond primary education, further exacerbated by unpredictable circumstances such as natural disasters, political unrest, and even pandemics. Learning is often interrupted and even halted altogether for many students, especially those vulnerable and marginalized. So we end where we began. How can we ensure quality, accessible, and uninterrupted learning opportunities for far more students than we are currently serving? Ladies and gentlemen, one thing is for certain. With less than a decade until 2030, the end year of SDGs, we can no longer afford to keep doing more of the same things, not as business as usual. We must explore new frontiers, new terrain. We must collectively embrace, foster, and invest in a culture of change, ignited by technology and bolstered through partnership. And we must stop merely defining and start demonstrating so that inclusion through innovation becomes a reality. And the tangible, life-changing opportunity for more sidelined students to be brought back from the margins into the core and realize their full potential. And I'd like to end my speech by saying that as a person who has really gone through all difficult challenges during my youthhood, childhood, when I was a young boy, just 6 years old, a Korean War broke out. and there were no schools. All school buildings were destroyed, and sometimes we had to study under the shade of trees. When it rained, no classes, of course. We liked the no classes at that time, even. But we were very hungry. But we are also very hungry for education. We are also very thirsty, but we are also thirsty for our education. That is why as soon as I became the Secretary General of the United Nations, I took this education, not because it was there in the Millennium Development Goals, but because from my own experience, my own urge. I think even though I was a child of war, but good education, quality education, made me later, many years later, serve as the Secretary General of the United Nations. I'm still very much committed, having initiated Global Education First Initiative with my good friend, former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Gordon Brown, and also Malala Yousafzai. I think they were the champions. They are still the champions, but there are many more champions who are really working for this Global Education for All initiative. And let us work together to make sure that every child around the world, whether from developed or developing countries, will give equal and fair and good opportunities for education so that they can contribute themselves as global citizens of this world. I thank you for your attention. Thank you.